We're going to be talking about Triumph TR6s in general, not this car, because this car is a beautifully restored car. What do we look for when we're looking at a Triumph TR6?
Well, the first thing is rust, as you and I both know, Dave, and it invades many places. Behind the headlights, the tail ends of the fenders is a good clue, and also pull up the driver's mat first off, because if water finds its way in, it can't get out except by going through the floor, and that's what it'll do. And towards the rear, especially the mounting points to the rear suspension. It's the independent rear suspension on these things is pretty complicated, and if you've got issues there, by the time you've gone down to fix those, the car will be in so many pieces, you'll be lucky to remember how to put it back together again. So that's something, but the body will give you the clue. If the body's horribly rusty, then you can pretty much figure there's damage elsewhere. And luckily with these things, they absolutely telegraph their problems. If you've got a rusty TR6, there will be no doubt.
And how about electrics on this? Now, this is a six-cylinder car. This is kind of the last of the series of the open-top, kind of traditional-styled British roadsters. Are electrics a major issue in this car?
You know, I've never had much trouble. I mean, other than things like alternators wearing out, and the fact, too, that the newer they get, from like 69 to 76, the later they get, the more emission issues that they have and so forth, and some of that. But and I think the heater fan, that's right. I had a heater fan. Oh, I remember that. That was a terrible thing to fix.
But we have to also be aware of oil pressure issues, right?
Yes, the engines actually last a long time. They'll go 100,000 miles with no trouble, provided that they've been serviced and so forth. But if the oil pressure starts to go away, you need to go in there. And that's another issue too, because basically everything has to be done with engine out. I never found any good way to work on one of these things while they were in place.
And in terms of how tough these cars are to restore, maybe a scale of 1 to 10, if we're looking at other British marques, other British open cars, I know that really high parts availability on this car. Does that make them easier to restore? Is the unibody kind of a tough thing to work with, or what is your opinion of that?
I think basically more than most British cars, it's vital to get a good one. Because if you've got rust issues, there's a problem. But if you also have like extreme wear issues in the back suspension, for example, which is really complicated, and that's just something you don't really want to get into. It's the old rule, I think, this almost like Jaguars, buy the best one you can afford, you can't afford a cheap one.
That's a great way to put it. And different years also on these. Now, I know they changed styles not radically throughout the years. I like some of the later ones. I know a lot of people like the earlier ones. What's your opinion?
Actually, the touch really is where the good colors come, because the early ones are pretty simple colors, and then about 1972, where you've still got small bumper cars, then they started getting really cool colors. Then there's some awful 73 and 74 colors, and then there's magenta, and there's the bright yellow and so forth. It has, I think it's 24 colors for TR6s, and they are absolutely the best range of colors for British sports cars that I can think of.
Well, that's great stuff. Paul, thanks very much for your help, and this has been a fun exercise learning more about Triumph TR6s, a car that I think has a lot of investment upside.
Yeah, and a ton of fun too.
That's exactly right. Well, thanks very much.